in South Africa agreed. Said, no, I think he's right. I didn't send that many scriptures or documentation, but he had a almost little booklet of stuff that he sent on that the creation is 6,000 years old, that the information has been misrepresented and led to us to believe it's 20 billion years, etc. And so, it's odd. It's probably not a salvation issue. But some of these things, we should be clear on why we believe the things we do, because we're so easily conned and are unable to be swayed to believe something that a image of ourselves actually is ourselves. So every man, woman, or child, at least in Canada, America the same, you're a ward of the state. They own you. They own everything you possess, and they own you. They're all in the matter of the business of the crown or the state, and it's in the name of Her Majesty or the Crown. Everything that can possibly be addressed in a court in Canada is all of it is in the name of the Crown. The courts in Canada are deciding what property the Anglican Church in Canada, when they had their rift 5 or 7 years ago over homosexual ministers, split into various groups, and they decided what property they would assign to different parts of that broken up church. The church didn't decide anything. All their membership paid for everything, but it didn't matter because they don't own anything. They're acting as a franchise. So the state then can just dole out buildings and blocks of it as the Anglican Church was falling apart a little bit. So we have the wrong father conducting bordering on illegal businesses, and in fact, when we're using this this false image, the doctrine of parens patrae is the doctrine of the parent-child relationship, or the father of the state. God is the father of the living state, the state of being of this living planet of His creation in a living universe. And the Crown, in our case, or the corporation in America's state, or the state, is the father of the dead, or the artificial. What Christ is talking about. Let the dead bury their own dead. All those Romans that had signed themselves off in ownership to the, to the state of Rome, they're dead. Don't worry about them. You're to live the way God wants you to live, without fear, but intelligently, like the Nakash, so you don't get yourself in silly trouble doing certain things. So, even from the days of your fathers, you have gone away from my ordinances, have not kept them. Return to me, I'll return to you, says Jehovah Sabaoth. You said, where shall we return? How can a man rob God? You rob me. You say, how do we rob you? In tithes and offerings. You're cursed with a curse. You have robbed me, the whole country, nation, and the whole planet Earth. Malachi, somewhere. See, we're taking things without the right to take. Under this assumed name, acting in behalf of an international banking conglomerate that wants to destroy 90% of the population of planet Earth and own all of it. So it's, Canada borders on, the British Commonwealth of Nations really border on organized crime. Which is why you pay your tenants' fees, but you own nothing. You own nothing. It must have taken 10 years for it finally to sink into my head of reviewing this and thinking about this, because our minds are confounded by this. How can this be? You certainly seem to be able to do with what you want. Well, if you start moving bits of your home around and bits of this, or start changing things in it, and somebody will knock on your door and say, you can't do that. You need a permit. Here, you pay this, and we'll decide whether we give you permission, whether you build this or that extension on your property. You can't do this or that with your children, because they're not your children. They're our children. We own them. The state owns your children, owns you too. Strange, eh? Think about it. Think about it. It'll take, it took me a while. Maybe somebody can make the switch quickly on understanding this. In legislative terms, you have to understand that we're no longer, or if we sign out of the system, you're not a character acting in an act or on a stage, as the definition of artificial persons was given to us. In all the dictionaries, you know, Blackstone, Bouvier, even the, you know, the legal dictionary for Canadian law. So, you know, we have a last will and testament. You're writing it up. So it's, you have to decide then, really, I presume, or at least that's the conclusion I came to, is are you acting in the will of God, your creator, and the individual who owns you truly, and are you acting, you know, by the will of man or by your own will? I mean, we're all making ourselves Elohim, or gods. God wants to make you an Elohim, like Moses and certain others. Well, that's his jurisdiction. He can do that because he owns you. He owns Moses. He can do with him what he wants. Or all of Israel can do with us what he wants. So you have to be careful of you know, how you're exerting your will on things and thinking about even the term will. So we all want to be in the will of our God. So we get the inheritance through his will, the will that he's written. And the judgment is made by how we keep the covenant and the terms of the agreement we made from our baptism. And I'm not really sure, because this relates then, of course, to the second commandment, and I think needs to be written perhaps quite differently than it has been. I'm not sure it's been correctly done, of how we explain this to the world at large, because it's a difficulty. So anyway, I just wanted to cover some of the highlights of this and get everybody's impression of where I'm going with it, because if you know, most of you are unable to understand really the point I'm trying to make here, you know, or I'm making it more confusing instead of less confusing, I'll have to, you know, just rethink how I'm preparing all of this. But, you know, there's no rush on it. Been my whole life. I'm 60. And, you know, others are many years older and smarter and all that. So it's just, it's odd how certain things can be brought to light. You know, we're so concerned about the second commandment and making little idols and things like that with our hands, you know, but it's things you manufacture in your mind, even unintentionally. The fact that we're all brainwashed and our minds are controlled, well, that's not really our fault, but we're responsible. You're responsible for what you know and what you do with it. You know, and if you've had X number of decades of schooling, that will misrepresent it, so it's just almost impossible to pound your way through some of this. And it's difficult, but I just want to cover a little bit of this ground and get some opinions today, because there's, you know, 3 or 4 other blocks of this. I'm sort of in the middle of all of it. And just get people's impression of where it's going, because my general impression that is the artificial legal being that we've created without knowing what we're doing is an image. It's an idol. It's a false idol, and I think it should be destroyed and burnt and killed. And however, once you've done that, you can have no relationship with the state or where you reside. You can't. You can buy or sell, but you can't have any business or things like that with the state. And of course, what's coming is, of course, that all money and cash, the gold will all be taken in. Silver's already being taken in as gold was. So it'll be difficult to exchange much of anything except really your services and that type of thing, which is why the New World Order will be able to control people so readily. So unless you have this number of your name stamped on your forehead or right hand, or put in a computer chip or something, so it knows where you are and what you're doing every day, and you know, that takes money into your account that they control and you have no control over, and out of your account, that type of thing, because everything is being done on trust of the New World Order. And it'll sound really good. Oh, well, you know, you can't lose any money, and people can't steal your credit card and use it and that. So, you know, you can see the ploy that'll be used. You'll know it's coming closer to it when you start seeing all kinds of media reports on, oh, how horrible the credit card thefts are, and people breaking into your bank account on the internet. We're going to probably have to shut down some or all of the internet because it's just a threat to everybody. So we're all aware of all this, and we know it's coming. But I just wanted to cover this in the writing, you know, in the preparation of the reading of the law on the second commandment.